What's up, guys? Today we're going to be building this full stack Kanban website from scratch with Next.js 14, Prisma, MongoDB, and Clerk. So let's get started by creating a new account. I'm going to click on Start Planning now. I'm actually going to change it to dark mode. I'm going to sign in with my Google account. Since we're a new user, we get pushed to the onboarding process. Here we create a name for our board. I'm going to name mine To Do. Click on Continue, and now we add our first task, code, and click on Continue. And now it's getting our board ready. If you notice, our buttons are disabled and our input is disabled as well. And we get a nice toast message saying that our board is ready. And now on our board, we can actually create more tasks. We can edit and delete them as well. And we can also change the status. So let's go ahead and add another task. I'm gonna say, watch a video. Click on confirm. We get a toast saying that the task has been created. And we can also edit. So I can change this to post a video. Click on confirm. And the task has been updated. And I can also delete it. And also as I drag them, all of the statuses are getting changed inside of the database as well. Let's take a look. Our task status is currently status of to do. So if I drag this over to in progress, we can refresh and our status changed to in progress. And same with completed as well. Once we drag to completed, the status changed to completed. So let's say a user creates a board. By clicking on continue, the board is created. If we look inside of our MongoDB database, the board has been created, test, and it got a user ID and a ID as well. So let's say that they go back and change the name of their board to test2. Click on continue. It also updates inside of our database. So if a user tries to access the My Kanban route without creating a board, they get pushed back to the onboarding process because they have to create a board before accessing this route. So now I think it's time to get started on this full stack project. All right, so I got a fresh project. Inside of the terminal, we're gonna type in npx create next app at latest, and we will be using TypeScript in this project. ESLint, no. Tailwind, yes. Source directory, no. App router, yes. And import alias, this is optional. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but I'm gonna click yes. So let's go ahead and clean up our files a little bit. Let's go ahead and get rid of favicon. And inside of the global CSS, we can get rid of all of this stuff here. Close out of that. And layout, we're going to come back to that here in a second. Our page, we can select all. Maybe we can export a new page. Switch this to home. And we're going to switch this to home as well. Okay, we could just, maybe inside this div, just have like a H1 and just say home page. Okay, and public, we can get rid of these two SVGs. So let's head back to our layout and we're going to change our font and work on our metadata. And then we're going to start with authentication first. So we're not using this enter font, we're going to be using Ubuntu. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce it. So Ubuntu there. I'm gonna switch this to Ubuntu. Get rid of the N there. And for our metadata, we could just do, for the title, we could just do My Kanban. And for the description, let's do personal Kanban board. All right, and switch this to Ubuntu. Keep spelling it wrong. Ubuntu. There we go. So here we can keep this at Latin. We're going to add a comma. Add some space there. And we're going to do a weight of 300, 4, 5, and 7. Okay. And let's go ahead and start up our server. All right, perfect. So now I say we go ahead and start with our authentication. So we're going to head over to Clerk.com, and if you don't already have an account, just go ahead and create one. I already have an account, so I'm going to head over to my dashboard. And as you can see, I got a bunch of other projects that I did, but I'm going to create an application. And Clerk make it so easy to add authentication to your website. Highly recommend using them. So we'll be using Google Sign In and Facebook. You can add more if you want. I'm just going to use these two, and we can also do email. I'm going to create application. Oh, we need a name. I'm going to name this YT Kanban. Let that create. And their docs is one of the best docs. So now it says we need to install Clerk with Next. So let's head back to our project. Open up our terminal. I'm gonna do a new one there, so our server can stay up. And let's go ahead and install Clerk. And now it says inside of our .env file, we need to copy over our publishable key and our client secret key. So let's go ahead and copy those. And we need to make a .env file. .env. And just paste those in there. Don't copy my key, please. Every single project, I always forget to change my MongoDB or my Clerk keys before I upload it. And I always come back and check on my projects, and it's like filled with a bunch of stuff. So don't copy mine, please. Okay, so now it says to wrap our project with this Clerk provider. And close out of that. So head over to layout, and we're going to import Clerk provider. All right, so we got to wrap our whole entire application up with this. I'm going to do Clerk provider, paste it down there. So now our project is wrapped with that. And then we need to do our middleware file. So we need to create a middleware.ts file in our root. I'm going to do middleware.ts. And we could copy this one here, but I actually have one already that you guys can copy over from the GitHub gist in the description, or you can just head over to the GitHub repository. And basically we're making our homepage a public route. So we don't want this page to have authentication, because we're going to have a nice hero section or a nice landing page, and then the rest of our website is going to be authenticated. So just make sure you add export default, public routes, and put a little slash there. And all this is the same thing as here. So you can actually just copy this and just add this little extra part in. I think that'll be easier. All right, cool. So now we can either do our sign in and sign out pages and sign up pages. So what we can do from here is we need to head over to the docs. Next.js guide, I think it's here. Here we go. So just make sure you click that little button at the bottom here. And it's going to take you to here. We gotta make our sign up pages and our sign in pages, and do all this other stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. So inside the app, we're going to make a folder to organize this a little bit better. So we're going to do parentheses auth. So everything that deals with our authentication is going to go inside this folder. We're going to have our sign in, our sign up pages, our onboarding form, our onboarding page. So now it says we need to do a sign up. Then we got to do the little brackets with the spread operator and make a page. So in here, let's do that now. We're going to make a folder, sign in. And then inside this folder, I'm going to create another folder. We're going to do brackets, ... sign -in, close the brackets. And down in here, we're going to have a page.tsx. And let's import sign in from Clerk. I'm glad that actually autocomplete. I don't know why it's from, hold on. Import sign in. We're looking for Next.js. I don't know if it matters, but just make sure it's Next.js. And then here we're gonna have a div, and it's gonna hold our sign in page. Our sign in component. All right, cool. So now we need to make our sign up page. So just make sure you click on auth, and we're gonna create another folder. This will be called sign up. All right, and in here, same thing. We're gonna do brackets, ... sign up. And in here, we're gonna have our page.tsx. And what we can do is actually just copy this over here and paste it in here and just switch this to sign up. Sorry about that, my phone fell. Switch that to sign up, and then we're gonna switch this to sign up. All right, perfect. So with that, we technically have authentication already. It's that easy. So if we refresh, nothing happens because we made our home page a public route. So to actually test this, we can head over to /signin, but I actually want to do something better. We're going to create a folder, or actually a route. Inside of app, we're going to create a folder. It's going to be called My Kanban. And let's go ahead and export this page. Actually, we're going to make a page.tsx in here. And let's go ahead and export this. And we could just do authenticated. Something like that. All right. So if we try to access this route, we should be pushed to the pushed to the sign in page. So My Kanban. All right, perfect. So we got pushed to the sign in page, but as you can see, it got this generated URL. We don't want that. So we actually got to fix that here in a second. Let's head back to our home page. So down here, so we already did step 1, we did step 2. Step 3, we got to copy over this to our .env file right underneath here. So we got our sign in page, sign in URL, our sign up URL, and then after sign in and after sign up. So we want after sign in to be My Kanban, and we actually want at the sign up to be our onboarding. Let's do My Kanban, and we should be, yep, there we go. We got our redirect there, and this is our site here. So we can actually start styling up this page as well. So let's head over to our sign up and sign in pages. Let's do the sign in page first. I mean, they're both going to be the same. We could just copy over. So this is going to have a class name. We're going to do dark. We're actually going to have dark and light mode. It's going to be BG gray 900. And do a height of screen. I'm going to do flex, justify center, and also an item center. All right. And let's copy this. And I'm going to paste it here as well. All right, perfect. And now we can actually try to sign in. I'm going to sign in with my Google account. Okay, perfect. So we're signed in now. We got authenticated and we got pushed to the My Kanban page. If you go over to Clerk, as you can see, we should have one user in here. And it's the email that I signed up with. So with that, you got authentication. Now I say we go ahead and start our navbar. So inside of the root, we're going to create a folder called components. In here, we're going to have a component called navbar.tsx. Let's go ahead and export this. And we're going to go ahead over to our layout and we're going to import it here right over top of our children. Navbar. All right, now since we're here, there are two things that we have to do. So actually we're just going to do one, and I'm going to wait till the error pops up and then we'll do the next one. So here, right we're actually going to copy this, and we're going to do backticks. We're going to do brackets, and we're going to do a $sign. And then we're going to do dark BG gray 900. Okay, so now it's dark. Okay. We still haven't added the toggle between light and dark mode yet, but we're gonna do that here in a second. And for now, we guess we could just add text white, so we can see the text there. We're gonna come back and remove that. All right, perfect. We can close out our layout for now, and let's head over to our navbar. There's one package that we have to install. We're gonna install npm React. We're gonna install React icons, not npm, but we're gonna type in npm I React -icons. So first things first, we're gonna make this a client component, and we're gonna import our user button from Clerk. All right, and you guys are gonna see what that is in a second. And then we're also gonna import pi Kanban, and that's coming from React icons /pi, and we're going to import link from Next.js. There's a few other more imports, but we're just going to actually let's import use session as well from Next.js, from Clerk Next.js. All right, and what this does is basically we get access to like if the user signed in or if the user signed out. So we actually want to grab that. We're going to do const is signed in, and we're going to do equal to use session. All right, so now we have access if the user signed in and not, and we can start rendering stuff out conditionally. All right, so we're going to do a div, and this div is going to have a class name of py5, bg of transparent, position relative, a z of 10, and a width of full. Okay, take a quick look at that. You don't see anything. And let's actually, for now, let's do a bg of gray. Of gray 500, just so we can see our changes. And then in here we're gonna have another div with a class name of flex, justify between, a width of 90%, a max width of 1450 pixels, and then an mx of auto. In this div, we're gonna have our link, and our href is just gonna lead us back to home. And here's gonna be our logo. So we're gonna have an h1 in here that says my Kanban, and then we're gonna have our React icon. Let's take a look at that. I don't know why it took so long. All right, let's add a class name to this link. It's gonna be called, it's gonna be flex gap1 item center text of 2xo, a font of bold and uppercase. Look nice. Okay, so after this link, we're gonna have another div with a class name of flex item center and then a gap of 5. In here, we're gonna render our user button, and this right here is our user button, guys, from Clerk. And you can manage your account, you can sign in and out, and you can also take in props. But the prop we're gonna use is after sign out URL. It's going to lead us back to home. So after user sign out, we want them to be directed back to the home page. Next, we're going to have our theme switch, but for now we could just we could just render out a maybe just a div or just like a span that says theme, or yeah, just put theme switch for now, so we can know that theme switch is going to go there. And after this, we're going to render out. So if a user is not signed in, we want it to say already a member, and then it's going to say sign in, and it's going to lead us to the sign in page. So we're actually going to render this out conditionally. We're going to use that is signed in that we take from this use session. So we're going to do if the user is not signed in, and do and. So we're going to render out a link, and this link is going to lead us back, or lead us to the /sign in page. And it's going to say already a member, question mark, sign in. And we're using like this little arrow, HTML entity, like the and sign, the number sign, 8594, and it's like a little arrow. And it's going to have a class name of tracking light, and then hover underline. All right, so we can actually test this out here. We're going to sign out. See, whoa, that's weird. It took us there. As you can see, we got already a member, and don't worry about that. We're gonna fix all of this. But all right, as you can see, already a member, and once we click, now we're back to sign in. So let's actually sign in again. And we're back to my Kanban. Let's get back to our home page. All right, perfect. So there's a bunch of other things we're going to do in here, but we're not going to do it right now. Say we go ahead and work on our hero section or our landing page, get that styled up, and then we're going to work on our API routes and our server actions and set up Prisma and MongoDB. All right, so before we start our landing page, there's 2 images to download. You can either head over to the GitHub repository, or you can head over to the Google Drive and link in the description. So we got our background, and then we got this little hero image we're going to be using. Just going to close out of that, and inside of our components, we're going to create another file which can be called hero.tsx. And to see this in action, we're actually going to import it here. We can turn this into a fragment like that, and then we can import hero. All right, so we got hero there. All right. So inside of our hero, we're going to import link from Next. And then we're going to have a div with a class name of bg dash brackets URL parentheses quotes /bg.jpeg, and then you can go in and close out everything, parentheses, and then close brackets. And then we're gonna do a height. So this is gonna be a little bit weird. We actually normally could just do a height screen for 100 VH. We're actually gonna do a height of 102 VH. All right. And then we're gonna do relative with the full BG cover, a margin top of -75 pixels, and then we're gonna do overflow of hidden, and then a text of white. With that, we should see our background. And we need to head back over to our navbar and change this back to BG transparent. Perfect. So let's do another div in here. And it's going to have a class name of flex, a height of full, item center, a justify center, a padding top of 82 pixels, a gap of 20, a width of 90%, MX of auto, a max width of 1450 pixels. All right, perfect. And then in here, we're gonna have another div, class name of grid, item center, a gap of 6, on medium screens and up, we're gonna do a grid cal 2. So that means by on small screens, it's gonna be a grid cal 1. And here we're gonna have an image tag, and I'm not using the Next.js image tag. I'm starting to really dislike that. It makes you set like a certain width and height, and I don't know. I'm starting to really dislike the Next.js image. I'll be having a bunch of problems with that component. So let's just use the regular HTML image tag. And for the alt, we can just do product image. And for the class name, we can do an MX of auto, a rounded XL, a order of last. On medium screens and up, we're going to do a min width of 800 pixels. And by default, it's going to be a min width of 500 pixels. And on medium screens and up, we're going to do a height of 500 pixels. And last but not least, we're going to do a max SM of px5. Now we need our source. So source is going to be hero, or I think we got to do a slash hero dash image.png. Perfecto. Okay. And now we need our text on this side. After this, we're gonna have another div. Let me scroll down some. This gonna have a class name of flex, flex cal, justify center, max MD. We're gonna do item center, space Y of 4, and on max MD, we're going to do a text center, right? And here we're going to have another div with a class name of space Y2. And here we're going to have our H2, and it's going to say visualize success daily. Let's take a quick look at that. Perfect. And this is going off the screen for a reason. I just think it looks so much better when it's like going off the screen a little bit. And I'm gonna do a class name of text 3XL, font of bold, a tracking of tighter, and then on small screens and up, we're gonna do a text of 4XL. Let's take a look. All right, perfect. All right, so after our H2, we're gonna have a P tag. Paste that inside of our paragraph tag. As it says, take control of your projects with our simple yet powerful Kanban board. And this is gonna have a class name of max width, 500 pixels, medium screens and up. We're gonna have a text of XL. And by default, the text is going to be text grade 300. All right, perfect. So after this P and after these two divs here, we're gonna have a link. And in here is going to be our button component that we haven't made yet. So we're actually going to just do a button, and it's just going to say start planning now. Okay. And it's going to have that HTML entity there, and we're using Next.js link tag, so we got to make sure we do a href, and it's just going to lead us to sign up. Sign dash up. All right, perfect. Whoa. Okay, now this is weird. We forgot something. Oh, okay, I see what we did wrong here. This is supposed to be inside of this div here. That's supposed to be inside, sorry. There we go. All right, so now let's say we go ahead and create this button component. So inside of our components, we're going to create another folder, and it's called UI. So in this folder, we're going to have 3 UI components, reusable. We have a link. We're going to have a button component. We're going to have an input component, and we're going to have a modal component. But for now, let's go ahead and just do our button component. So button.tsx. So the props we're going to take in here, we're going to take in a text, or actually I probably should, yeah, let's just do this first. So text, I'm going to take in a type of button. So it's going to be either type button, submit, reset. If I on click, we're going to take in if it's disabled or not. And then we also go to take in confirm button, which honestly, I'm trying to think if we use this or not. Let's just put it confirm button. Okay, and let's go ahead and set our type since we're here. All right, so text is obviously going to be a string. Our type, we're going to do type button, or it can be submit, or it can be reset. And then our on click, make sure you add a question mark. It's going to be return void. And then disabled is a boolean, and then confirm button is a boolean, and question mark there as well, because it can be undefined. So now let's start styling up this button, and actually let's go ahead and import this inside of our component, or hero component, so we can see our changes that we're making. Let's do button, and we always got to take in a text, so we start planning. So let's head back over to our button, and we're going to return a button, and we're going to do disabled is going to equal to disabled. Our on click is going to equal to on click. Our type is going to equal to our type. And then our class name is going to be, we're actually going to do brackets, backticks, because we're going to render some stuff out conditionally. So we're going to do inline, flex, height of 10, a rounded MD, a text gray 700, a PX of 8, a text of small, font medium, a shadow, a transition of colors. We had a duration of 500. We're gonna have a hover of BG grade 200. Have a focus visible. And it's going to be outline none. And then focus visible. Be a ring of 1. Another focus visible. A ring. Grade 950. Then we're gonna do item center. And in here, we gotta make sure we have our text. So let's do text like that. You can actually take a little quick look at this. So that's the whole reason why we did these backticks. So we're actually going to do, we're going to render some stuff out conditionally. So we're going to do $ brackets. So if the button is disabled, we want the styling to have an opacity of 50. All right. And now if the button is a confirm button, we want the styling to be BG red 500, text of white, and we're gonna do a hover of BG red 500/80. But else we want the BG to be white. So that should change our button to white. Perfect. Nice little hover effect over it. And it should take us to our, oh, wait, let me refresh. That was weird. Okay. That was weird. It's not taking us to our sign up page. Oh, because we're already signed in. That makes sense. All right, so it's time to set up our database. We'll be using Prisma and MongoDB for this. So head over to prisma.io and also head over to MongoDB. And if you don't already have an account, please create one. But first, let's set up Prisma. So let's go ahead and click on Get Started. And we're going to click on Quick Start. And here we get access to, so we already got TypeScript and all of that installed. So we can just come down here to this section, the install Prisma -- save dev. And let's go open up our terminal and let's paste that inside. All right, so once that's completed, we can head over to step number 2 and copy over this. So we're not using SQLite, we're using MongoDB. So open up your terminal and you can actually just get rid of SQLite and just type in MongoDB. And what this is going to do is create a Prisma folder, a Prisma folder with a schema inside. And it's also going to do some stuff inside of our .env. As you can see, it added this Mongo database URL. So let's actually do our schema since we're here. And we already got our MongoDB. The schema is pretty short. I'm actually just gonna copy this over here and paste it right there. So our Kanban board, we're gonna have a model Kanban board, and it's gonna take in, since we're using MongoDB, each one of our models gotta have a ID. So we're doing an ID string, and then we're taking in a name, our user ID, which is a string, and the date it was created, or the time it was created, and then our task, and that's going to be our task model. That's why we're getting an error there. And then our task is taking the same thing, ID, a name string, a status, a board, which is our Kanban board, and it's going to have a relation with the board ID. Then our board ID, which is a string, and that's our board ID, or our Kanban board ID, and also the date and time it was created. And last but not least, our status. So we're actually going to do a enum status and to do, in progress, and done. So with that, we can actually do, oh, we can't even do that yet. We actually got to set up our MongoDB. So inside of MongoDB, we're actually going to click on create new project. Project name, I'm just going to do YT Kanban and click on next. Create project. I click on database and build a database. Here we're going to do free. Create deployment. Okay, so this is important. So make sure you type in the password you're going to remember. For the password for mine, I'm just going to do my name, Antonio, and create database user. All right, choose a connection method. We're going to do drivers. And we're going to copy over our database URL. And head back over to our .env, and we can actually paste our database URL in here. Okay. Normally it'll have a place to put in the password, but it already have our password in. That's cool. So after this slash, and in between the slash and this question mark, we're actually just going to type in Kanban, and we're going to open up our terminal, and we're going to type in this command. We're going to type in npx prisma db push. Head back over to MongoDB, and we got all checks there, so that's good. Close out of that and click on browse collections, and hopefully we see perfect. We see our task and we got our Kanban board. All right, so let's go in and close out of all of this stuff here. Start fresh. And inside of our root, we're going to create another folder, and it's going to be called utils. In here, we're going to have our Prisma file, just so that way we don't get that little error saying that we call in Prisma too much. I'm going to do a prisma.ts. And if you guys are used to my Prisma projects, you guys know that this file is, we use this every time, so we could just copy and paste this over. I actually got it copied over inside of my notes on my computer, so that way I could just have easy access to it, because we got to use this in every single project we use Prisma. So let's go ahead and copy this over from the GitHub gist or the GitHub repository and just paste that inside that prisma.ts file. So now we're actually going to head over to our auth folder, and we're going to create a route. It's going to be called onboarding. In here, it's going to be a page. And we can actually close out of Prisma, keep MongoDB open. And let's head over to this route here. So there's our onboarding page there. And what we want to do, we actually want to make this an async. We're going to import our current user, and that's coming from Clerk, Next.js. But before we do anything else in here, we're going to create another folder inside of our auth. It's called components, and in here it's going to be our onboarding form, and we're going to go back to our page and we're going to import it here. First, we're going to have a div, and it's going to be the class name. It's going to be the same thing as our hero section. Hero. I'm going to take this whole entire thing here, but we can actually get rid of like text white. All right, and then here we're going to have our onboarding form. So we actually want to send our onboarding form some props. We're going to send it over our current user, and eventually we're going to send it over our board ID. But we're actually going to send over the current user now. So we imported current user from Clerk. So what we got to do now, we're going to do a cons user. We're going to do equal await current user. We only want to send over the user name or the user first name. What we can do is just do const username equals user, and once you click dot, as you can see, we get access to a bunch of stuff, and all this is within Clerk. We can actually user.band. I never used that one before. And can take the image and stuff like that, but we're just going to do first name. We're going to do question mark and double question mark and empty quotes. All right, perfect. And let's go ahead and send over our user. All right, so before we start our onboarding form, there's actually 3 packages we're going to install. We're going to install Framer Motion. So it's npm I framer -motion, and then we're going to install React Spinners. So npm I React -spinners. And then last but not least, we're going to install React Hot Toast. So we're going to do npm install React -hot -toast. All right, perfect. So we got all 3 of our packages, and now we're going to make some imports. Let's go ahead and import use state and also use effect. And since we're importing use state and use effect, make sure we make this a client component. Use client. We're also going to import motion, and we're also going to import use router. And we're going to import our button from our components folder, and going to import sync loader. That's just a little React spinner, a little animation. It's pretty cool. And then we're going to import toast. Let's go ahead and take in our props. Let's go ahead and take in our user for now, and let's go ahead and set our types here. So our user can be a string, or it can be null, or it could be undefined, because we're just taking in the first name, so that's why it can be a string, null, undefined. So our onboarding form, we want it to have 2 steps. The first step is going to be where the user types in their title of their Kanban board. And then once they click on continue, that's when step number 2 is going to show up. And that's going to be where they add the first task to their Kanban board. So we didn't create our server actions yet. But for now, we can go ahead and style this up a bit. So to do that whole step 1 and step 2 thing, we actually got to make sure we set some state here. So we're going to do a const step, set step, and by default, it's going to be 1. And then we're also going to do a const loading, set loading, and by default is going to be false. And then we also going to do a const router. It's going to be equal to use router, just so we can have access to this. And we can push the user to certain routes. And did I make sure I do use router from next navigation? So that's important. Make sure you do next navigation or this won't work. Let me just put a little comment here. The use effect we're going to do eventually is we're going to check if there's a board ID. I'm going to do if true. We're going to do router push my Kanban, just so we can remember that. All right, but we don't have access to that board ID yet, so that's why we're not making it. But let's go ahead and do our steps. So we're going to do a const. I'm going to do step 1 submit, and the only thing this is going to do is set step to 2, and then we're going to do a const step 2 submit. So we're going to set loading to true. All right, because we're going to have a nice little loading spinner that says getting your board ready, or your board is in progress, or something like that. So we're going to actually have a set timeout for this to work. This set timeout is just going to give the form enough time to submit, because I was having a little issue to where I would click continue and it would push me to the Kanban page, my Kanban page, without the form being submitted. So we're actually going to do a set timeout, and inside the set timeout we're actually going to do a router dot replace. So normally you probably will use router dot push. So router dot replace, it basically, so when you use router dot push, it adds a route to the stack, and that basically the user can go back to the previous route. So if we do router dot push, the user can press this back button and it'll take them back to this onboarded page. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to use router dot replace. So it'll just replace the whole entire stack with this my Kanban route. So when they get pushed to this route, they won't have an option to get pushed back to the onboarding page, because we don't want them back on this page. So we'll do my Kanban, and we're actually going to do a toast dot success. So this is just React hot toast. It's going to say welcome to your new board, and it's actually going to have user. It's going to be welcome to your new board, Antonio, because we're taking in the username. All right, and we also want to set loading to false inside of this set timeout. And whenever you use set timeout, you got to make sure you set how long you want it to be. I want it to be 5 seconds. All right. Perfect. And now we need an option for the user to go back to step 1 if they say, oh, I want to change the name of my board. I don't like that name. So we're going to do a const go back, and that's just going to set step to 1. So we are going to add a little bit of animation with framer motion. Not too much, not too complicated. Over top of our onboarding form, we're actually going to do a const variance, and we want the hidden to be opacity 0, visible, and that's going to be opacity 1. This is all framer motion stuff we're doing. And then we want the exit to be opacity 0. So really simple. It's not that complicated of an animation. Just whenever we go to step 1, step 2, it's going to have opacity 1, 0, and it's just a nice little effect to it. All right, so down here, let's start styling this up so we can start seeing some stuff. So we're actually gonna have a motion. Actually, let's just do div, and then we're gonna add a motion dot like that. All right. Add some space here. So we want the initial to be hidden, and we want the animate to be visible. We want the exit to be exit. And then we want the variance to be variance. All right. And then we want the transition. So this is, we're gonna add a duration to it. Duration of 0.5. There's also gonna have a class name of flex call, height of full, item center, justify center, a padding top of 82 pixels, a width of 90%, MX of auto, a max width of 1450 pixels, and then a text of white. All right. Dude, my phone is like going off. All right, let me scroll down. Okay, so now we're gonna render this out conditionally. So we're gonna have step 1 first. I'm gonna do brackets and we're gonna do step. So if our step is triple equals to 1, and that's what we're gonna render this out. So we want a motion. Actually, let's just do a div. And then we're gonna change this to motion dot. And same thing, we're gonna do initial is going to be initial. It's going to be opacity 0. And then animate going to be opacity 1. And then transition is going to be same thing, duration 0.5. And this is going to have a class name of width full and text center. And inside this div, we're going to have a h1 with a class name of margin bottom 10, a text of 4XL, a font of bold and uppercase. And here it's going to say, hey, user, let's give your board a name. Take a look. As you can see, it had that little effect to it. Nice. And we want the little emoji, the little hand emoji right after this. I think that looks better. All right, perfect. And now we need to make our form. After this h1, we're gonna have our form. Class name of flex call, a gap of 10, and item center. And it's also going to have a on submit, and on submit is going to be step 1 submit. So whenever we submit this form, it's going to run this function up here, and it's going to just set step to 2. All right. So in this form, we're going to have our input component. So we're actually going to go ahead and create this input component now. So it's going to be input component. So let's actually head over to our UI and create this. So we're going to create a file inside of our UI folder. It's going to be called input.tsx. And we can go ahead and export it. And it's going to take in a bunch of props. So we're going to take in a name. I'm taking a type. Placeholder. I'm going to take in a value. I'm going to take in disabled. And we're also going to take in full width. All right. So we can actually set our types. Our name is going to be a string. Our type is going to be a string. Our placeholder is going to be a string. And we're also going to put a question mark because this can be undefined, because we're going to have some hidden inputs. And then our value also can be undefined, so put a question mark. And that's going to be a string as well. Disabled, going to be a Boolean. And last but not least, full width can be undefined, and that's a Boolean. All right, so we got our types there. And then we're going to return an input. So our class name for this input, we're actually going to render some stuff out conditionally again. So make sure you do brackets, backticks, do a height of 20, BG transparent, a border bottom, text 3XL, a width of 4/5, self-center, and then a focus outline of none. Okay. And now we're going to render out how we want the styling to be if the input is disabled. Oh, we got to make sure we do this inside of the backticks. A new $ brackets, disabled, and so we want the opacity to be 50, the cursor default, and then we also want to render out if full width is true, $, bracket, full width, and this is just going to make the width full, so width 100%. All right, perfect. And on top of this, we're going to add in all of our props. So we want the name to be name. We want the type to be type. We want disabled to be disabled. Value to be value. And placeholder to be placeholder. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead back over to our onboarding form, and we're going to import that inside of our form here. I'm going to do a type of text. Wait, did it import? Oh, it imported this from post CSS. We don't want that one. And we want the name to be name. We want the placeholder to be my board name ... and then we want disabled to be loading. All right, let's take a look. Perfect. Nice. All right, and now we need our button at the bottom of this. So right after this, we're gonna have our button component, and we're just gonna do a text of continue. And we want the type to be submit. Take a look. Perfect. All right. Now we need to render out step number 2. So we're going to do step triple equals to 2. And we're gonna have the same exact div here. Where is it? This one here. So we could just actually copy all of this here. So initial, animate, transition, and a class name. And then come down here to step number 2 and just do div, and just make it a motion.div, and then paste all of that in here like that. All right. And then here we're gonna have a h1. Actually, we can copy this h1 as well. Copy that one. And we're just going to change this up to now. Let's add your first task like that. So we shouldn't be able to, actually we should see it now. Let's add this little emoji as well. So let's click on continue. And as you can see, now we get that. But we can't go back, so let's just refresh the page and it should switch back to our first step. All right, because we don't got that go back button yet. All right, so after this H1, I have a input. And it's gonna have a type of text, a name of task, placeholder of my first task, ... And then disable is going to be loading. All right. And after this input, we're actually going to have a hidden input. And this is all because we're going to be using server actions. So I'm going to explain this once we get to that step. So for now, we're just going to have a comment. We're going to have hidden input here. All right. And we just copy it and just comment that out. Because we're going to have this hidden input holding our board ID for each user, and then we're going to send that board ID to our server action that we're going to be doing. So that's going to go there, but underneath here we're going to have a div, class name of flex, justify between, a width of 4/5, and then a margin bottom of 10. And here we're gonna have our button components. We have a button. First one is going to have a text of this HTML entity. It's like a little arrow pointing to the left. Let's take a look. Let me show you guys very quick. Continue. There's a little left thing in there. And type text. I mean, it's gonna say go back here. So go back. And then it's going to have an on click. And our on click is just going to be our go back function. And then disable is going to be loading. Okay. I don't know why it's so close to that there. It's weird. Oh, we forgot our form. So let's do our form. Forgot our form for this. This form's gonna have an on submit, and the on submit is going to be step 2. Submit. All right, it's going to wrap our button up and our inputs up with our form. So all the way down here. And this form is also going to have a class name of flex call, gap of 10, and then an item center. All right, perfect. So we got our go back button, and now we need our continue button. So right underneath this button, we have another button component. And this is going to have a text of continue. Type is going to be submit. And disable is going to be loading. All right. Oh, we did 5/5. It's supposed to be 4/5. That's why. There we go. All right. So we got our go back button and we got our continue button. So now we need to add our loading state. So whenever we click this continue, I just want something down here to show that our board is getting ready. So after this div, we're gonna have loading, a div with a class name of flex, gap of 3, item center, and then a text of white. And here we have our sync loader. Whenever you're using React spinners, you can change the color by using this prop. Just do color, and then you can just do we're gonna do white, so FFF. And then I want to span in here that says getting your board ready. Okay. Oh, and then else we can just return null. Instead of the input, let's just do required like that. So once we click this, you gotta fill it out. I didn't add that to my project, the completed one, but now that I'm thinking about it, probably should. All right, so type in the board name, continue. Type in your task, and hopefully the load-in pops up. Getting your board ready, and perfect. It took us back to, that's because we didn't make the, hold on. Okay, that's a little weird, hold on. Okay, so one thing we forgot to do is we forgot to do our toaster context. And then we got to add it to our layout. So inside of our root, we're going to create a folder. And it's going to be called contacts. And in here, we're going to create a file. It's going to be called toaster contacts.tsx. And the only thing we're going to do in here is make this a use client. And then we're going to import toaster from React Hot Toast. And then let's just go ahead and export this here like that. And the only thing we're going to do is just return our toaster component like that. All right. And we can actually wrap not wrap, but we're going to add our toaster contacts on top of our navbar here. Toaster contacts like that. Okay. So let's give this a shot. Maybe that was the issue. Or hold on. Continue. Getting your board ready. We're actually going to just add in a little fake action on this step 2 form. Just do action. And we can actually just do step 2 submit. And I want to see if this works if I just remove that. I just want to see if this works. All right, so let's type in a board name, type in that, type in our first task, and click on continue. And it's getting our board ready. And you can see our input and our buttons are disabled. And then we get that toast message that we're authenticated. That we're at our new board and we're authenticated and we're on the my Kanban route. So perfect. So now I say we go ahead and do our server actions and our get board ID action as well. So let's go ahead and do that now. But before we do that, let's actually switch this back before we forget. Because this action is going to be our create task action. All right, so inside of our root, let's just close all of this stuff out. Actually, instead of our app folder, we're going to create a folder called actions. And we're going to create 2 files. The first one is going to be called board actions.tsx. Or we could just do .ts, sorry. Not delete. Rename, do .ts. And then the next one is going to be called get board ID.ts. All right. So let's start with the board actions. So we're doing server actions. We're going to use server at the top. And then we're going to import revalidate path from next cache. And then we're also going to import Prisma. And then we're also going to import auth. If you scroll down, it should be somewhere down here because there's actually 2 of them you can use. I guess it's not showing up, but this is coming from Clerk. We're going to do at clerk.next.js. We're going to do /server. All right. And let's go ahead and get access to that user. What a user ID. So we're going to do user ID. It's going to set our type for it. So user ID is a string, or it can be null. And that's going to equal auth. All right. So now essentially we have access inside of our server action, so we don't have to send it over, you know, like we normally have to do. But we have access to our user ID inside of our server action. So that comes in handy. So let's go ahead and do an export async function create new board. So this is creating a new board. And we're doing a simple server action. So we got to do our form data. Form data. Equal form data. And then we're going to take in we're going to take in a name. It's going to be form data dot get. And the one we're getting from is called name. And then add string. I got a whole video on server actions. So this is basically just grabbing this input inside of our, where is it? Auth, components, onboarding. So it goes by the name of that input. So that's task, and up here is name. So this first step is going to form is going to create our board name. So we can actually change this to board name. So if we do that and head back over to our server action, we have to change this to board name. So this is basically just getting that board name as a string, and we're just saving it inside of a name. All right. So we want to first check if the board already exists for a user. So the user can't just keep creating boards every time they go back, create, you know, like, because we got that little go back function. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a const existing board. Existing board. That's going to equal await Prisma dot Kanban board dot find first. We gotta tell it where to find it. So where it's going to be our user ID. And luckily we have access to this user ID like that. All right. So now we need to tell it what to do if it is an existing board. So if existing board, we want to just update the name of the existing board instead of creating a whole new one. So we're going to do Prisma dot Kanban board dot update, and where it's going to be ID, and it's going to be our existing board dot ID. All right. I'm getting an error here. Let's see. Oh, I think because we need to do our data at the bottom here. So our data, it's going to be our name. And instead of name, oh, actually, we can just do name because we saved it instead of this name there. All right. So just to go back over it, we're just checking to see if the board already exists. If the user already have a board. If they do, we'll just update the board with the name coming from our input board name. All right. So after that, we need our else statement, and that's going to go right here. I'm going to do else. We want to create a new board, so we're going to do await Prisma dot Kanban board dot create. And we need the data. So the data is going to be name. That's going to be name. And then we also need our user ID, which is going to just be our user ID coming from Clerk. Perfect. So that right there is our Kanban board, our create new board function or server action. Below, we're going to do our create task, and we're going to do our edit task, and we're also going to have a delete task at the bottom here. But for now, let's head back over to our onboarding form and let's test this out. So step 1, form, we're going to have an action. And this is going to be our create new board action. Let's give that a save and let's go test this out. Make sure you have your MongoDB database open. Slash onboarding. Okay, so once we type, I'm gonna type in just task, and I'm gonna click on continue, and hopefully that works. Let's go ahead and give this a look, and perfect. So we got our ID. Let me zoom in some, maybe you guys can't see it. We got our ID, we got our task, we got our name, we got our user ID from Clerk, and we got the time it was created. Perfect. And this Kanban board ID, we're going to use this to save all our tasks in this as well. So this is perfect. All right, so we got our first server action complete. Now let's head back over to board actions and let's create the rest of them. So we want to do a create task, we want to edit task, and we also want to delete task. Let's do the create task one first. So async. And that's essentially how you do server actions. Really simple. I personally like them. So I know some people don't, but so we're going to form data. And the same thing, we're going to grab the name. So we're going to do form data. Form data. Wait. Let's see what I did wrong here. Oh, I forgot function. All right, so form data, and we're gonna do .get, and we're gonna grab task. That's what we named our input, and that's gonna be as string. And then remember where I told you we're gonna have that that hidden input. That's gonna be our board ID. So form data .get and board ID. So we don't have this yet, so we can't even test this out until we create that board ID server action. All right, so we're gonna do if our name.trim all we want to do is return. So if our input is empty, we're just going to return if our task. But we do have that required, so it shouldn't be empty. That's just an extra precaution to take. So we're going to do await Prisma .task .create and data. So the name is going to be name. The board, we're actually going to do a bracket connect, and we're going to connect this to our board ID that we're getting from here. And then last but not least, we need our status. So by default, each status is just going to be to do. So to do like that. And we can also add revalidate path there and revalidate path there. All right, let's do our edit task. So we're gonna do an export. Actually, what we can do is just probably, so let's do a comment, and we're gonna do edit and delete server actions. Once we get to the CRUD operations for our board, I say we come back and do those. Maybe so you won't get confused. But we had to do this create one because it's on our onboarding step here. So, but we don't have that board ID yet, and that's what we're about to go do now. So let's head over to get board ID. We're gonna import Prisma, and we're also gonna import auth, just like we did inside of our board actions. Export cons get board ID for user. And this is going to be an async cons user ID. So let me just go back and copy this. Save us some time. Same thing as this. And we're going to do a cons board. That's going to equal await Prisma dot Kanban board dot find first. And we're going to find, gotta tell it where to find it. And user ID. Right? And all we want to do now is just return our board. So after this, we're going to do return board question mark board.id. No, like that. Okay, perfect. So we have to pass over our board ID to our onboarding form. And to do that, what we're going to do is head over to our onboarding page. And we're going to import it here. Let's go ahead and import get board ID from user. And then we can just do cons board ID equals await get board ID from user. And now we can send over this board ID to our onboarding form. All right. So inside of our onboarding form, we need to take in this prop here. Comma board ID. It's going to set the type for it. So board ID can just be a string or null. Perfect. So now we can do our use effect that we made a comment for. So we want the use effect, an if statement. So we're going to do if our board ID is not null. We want to do a router dot push, or we probably should do router dot replace in this instance too. So router dot replace my Kanban. Okay, and we only want, as you can see, to push this to that route, and that's because we already have a board ID. We're actually going to delete that, and we want this to run when a component mounts. Let's test this out. Let's remove this. And let's head back over to onboarding. Okay. So that only runs when the component mounts. So we should be able to go to step 1 and step 2 perfectly fine. And let's make sure our update is working as well. We didn't check, so it's DS. Let's actually change it to a name. Let's go back. And I'm just going to change it to my name, Antonio. Let's see if it updates in our database. Perfect, so it does update. So now down here, we can actually, wherever we commented this hidden input here, we can actually have another input. And this is going to be type hidden. And the value is going to be board dot or board ID, sorry. And then a name is going to be board ID, like that. So with that, our server action should work now, but we actually have to add it here. So our action is going to be create task. So let's test this out. I'm just going to do code and then click on continue. Our board's getting ready. And we get the welcome to your new board, Antonio. Let's check and see if our tasks get updated inside of our database. It does. The status is to do. We got our name and we got an ID. Perfect. All right, so before we start styling up our Kanban board, we got two things to do. We got to install two packages, and I want to create this folder in our root, and it's going to be called types. And in here, we're going to create a file. It's going to be called types.ts. And I'm just going to paste this in there. It's just some types that we're going to be using inside of our Kanban board. So we got interface, we got task, we got ID string, status string, name string. Then we got our board types. It's going to be task, the task array. So it's going to be full of task, and ID string and name string. All right. And like I said, we got two packages to install. So I'm gonna open up my terminal. The first one is going to be called npm. It's going to be called Axios, npmi Axios. And the next one, I actually want to go to Google. It's called Hello Pangea DND. This is a drag and drop library. My first time actually using it. Their documentation is just like, it's all over the place. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you gotta like search through all of this stuff, but we'll be just using this here, this drag and drop context, droppable, draggable, and you can read what it does. So draggable is just what can be dragged around. So obviously our task. Droppable is the area where the task can be, draggable can be dropped in. So that's going to be our columns. And then drag and drop context is just a wrap. And that's what we're going to wrap our application or our, basically our whole Kanban board. All right. And we're not going to be using most of this stuff here. Where is the np? There's the install. Maybe we could just type in npm Pangea, hello Pangea DND. And let me just get this code right quick. Paste it in here. Okay, so for our Kanban page, we're actually going to make some imports here. We're going to import auth from Clerk /Next.js. So note that this isn't the server one. So there's two of them. So there's this one there, and there's the one that we use inside of our server actions. We use this one here /server. So make sure you import the one without the /server. Inside of components, we're going to make two more components. We're going to make a board.tsx and a column.tsx. All right. And we can go ahead and export both. And let's go ahead and import our board to our MonKanban route. Do fragments. I'm just going to do board. Okay. So we want to fetch our board from our database, the current user, and we want to send it over to this board component. So to do that, we're going to make this a async function, and we're going to do the little trick that we did inside of, well, not really a trick, but we're just going to grab the user ID just like this, copy that, and head back over to our board, my Kanban page, and paste that there. So we grab the user ID. Then we're going to do a cons board that's going to equal await Prisma dot Kanban board dot find first, and we got to tell it where to find it. It's going to be by our user ID, and then we also want it to include our task with it. I'm going to include task. And all we got to do, that's a Boolean, so just do true. All right, cool. So now we can send over our board. to our board. All right, perfect. And now let's hit, so we got our board there. Let's head over to our board component. So this is going to be a client component. I'm going to use client at the top. And then we're going to import Axios. From Axios, we're going to import some stuff from the D&D, the Hello Pangaea D&D drag and drop, the drag result. Oh, drop results. That's why. So it's drop result like that. Okay. And then we're also going to import our column component. We're going to import use state and also use effect. We're going to import use router. And that should be good for now. Let's go ahead and set some state. And yo, this is a pretty long component here. All right. So we got to accept our props, accept our board in. And what we can do is also import our types. So let's go to import. I'm going to import task from our type folder and also board like that. All right, so let's set our type. I'm not sure why we get in that error right there. We're going to do react.fc. I'm going to do board. And that's going to be our board. Or it can be null. And now let's set some state here. We're going to do a cons task. And then we're going to do set task. It's going to equal use state. And by default, that's going to be null. Then we're going to do the same thing we did inside of our onboarding form. We're going to do a load-in state. So we're going to do loading and then set loading. And that's going to equal to false by default. We're actually going to have some state for a modal. But we haven't created our modal component yet. So for now, we're going to do state for modal. Add a little comment there. Okay. And let's go ahead and grab this using Next navigation. So let's go ahead and grab that router from there. So we're going to do a cons router. And that's going to equal use router. Okay. Perfect. All right. So first thing I say we should do is we're going to do a use effect. And what this use effect is going to do is, say for instance, a person goes to our onboarding step. So they go to onboarding and it's going to push me back to, it's going to push me back to there. But on step 1, they decided to actually go to this route without completing the form. We want them to be pushed back to onboarding if they don't have a board created, a board ID. So that's what we're going to do here with this use effect. So we're going to do a use effect here. And then we're going to do if board. We're just going to set task board.task. All right. And we're going to get some errors there. And we actually want this, I know this is weird, but we actually want loading to be true because we're going to have this change inside of our use effect. So we're going to set loading to false. Set loading to false. So this is if they have a board. But if they don't have a board, so else we want to do a router dot push slash onboarding. Okay. And we can test this out here in a second. So board. We're looking for any changes towards our board. All right. And to get rid of that error, we can hit up to task here. And we just need to just set a type here. So we're going to do task. That's an array. or it could be null. All right, and I should get rid of that error there. All right, so let's actually test this out. Let's head over to our MongoDB database and let's go ahead and delete our board. All right, and let's give this a refresh, and it should push us back to onboarding because we don't have a board. Okay, so this is the error that I was talking about, the hydration warning. So to get rid of this error here, we actually want to head over to our layout, and inside of this HTML, all you gotta do is just press the S button, and then all this stuff gonna pop up. We're gonna do suppress hydration warning and just give that a save. All right, so let's go ahead and create our board again. I'm just gonna do div Antonio, continue, first task, take dog out, and continue. Let it go ahead and create my board. And we're back on this page. Perfect. So let's head back over to our board component. So that is our use effect. All right. And now we're going to create, so underneath here is going to be our modal, let's just do modal controls, because we're going to have our create modal in here, and then in our column we're going to have our edit and delete modals as well. So we need to create or we probably should just start styling this first. Yeah, let's start styling it so we can see everything that's working. So let's have a div in here, and we're going to give this a class name of dark, BG gray 900, a PY of 10, position relative, and a height of screen. All right, and we have an H1 in here with a class name of font bold, text center, a margin bottom of 10, and a text 3XL. And in here is going to be our board.name. So board.name. And we're going to get an error because board can be or null. So just put a question mark there. Let's see if it shows. So we got our board name there, Dev Antonio. And now this is where we're gonna do some stuff with our library, the drag and drop library. So we're gonna have our drag drop context. All right, so this drag and drop context is gonna hold all of our column. But in here we're gonna have a div with a class name of grid. On medium screens and up is going to be grid call 3. On max MD, we want it to be item center, a width of 90%, a max width of 1500 pixels, a MX of auto. Medium screens and up, you're gonna do a gap of 5, and then also a gap of 10. All right, and as you can see, we're getting an error because we need our on drag in function in there, but we're gonna do that here in a second. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have 3 columns. So we're gonna have our column component. All right, so let's copy this 3 times. 1, and it's going to take some props, but we didn't send them over yet. Let's just take a quick look at this. All right, so we got our 3 columns there. Perfect. And so each one's going to have a droppable ID. So one's going to be to do, one's going to be in progress, and then one's going to be completed. So, but we need to make our on drag in function, and this is a pretty long function here, and it's not too complicated. We're gonna do a const on drag, and a lot of this is inside of the D&D docs. So a lot of it was just me copying over from the docs. So we're gonna do result, and that is drop result. Give that a type of drop result. All right, so we're gonna do a const. So we're gonna destructure out our source, our destination, and also draggable ID. All right, and that's going to come from our results. Okay. Oh, what the heck? I put all right, draggable ID. All the structures are unused. Draggable ID does not exist. Oh, I put a D there. Oh man, that's funny. Let's just get rid of that D. All right, so we destructure out our source, destination, draggable ID from result, and that is type drop result. So all this is from the D&D library. So now we're gonna check if not destination. We're just going to return. All right, and then we're gonna do another if check. We're gonna do if, make some space here. Scroll down some. So if our source dot droppable ID triple equals to our destination dot droppable ID, do and our source dot index is triple equal to our destination dot index, we're just going to return. Okay. All right, and now we need to do underneath here, we're going to do a const dragged task, and it's going to be task dot find. I'm taking a task, and it's going to return a task dot ID triple equals to our draggable ID. Okay, and then we're getting an error there because it's any. We could just put a question mark there. I mean a exclamation point there. So we're gonna do let update. We could just ignore that error for now. I'm not sure why we're getting an error there. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that. We'll fix that here in a second. So let status, and that's going to be string. Let updated status. And now we're going to do a switch statement, and it's basically just going to determine the updated status based on the destination droppable ID. So like I said, each column is going to have a droppable ID, and it's going to be, first one's going to be to do, pending, and completed. So based on that, this is what's going to happen to each task. So we're going to do switch, and then we're going to do destination dot droppable ID, and we're going to do case to do. We're going to do updated status. It's going to equal to do, like that. And then we need a break since we're using a switch statement. Need a break. And now we can actually just copy this here and just switch up the stuff in there. So we have two more. So case in progress, we're going to do updated status to in underscore progress. Okay. And we're going to break after that. Then we're going to do completed. We're going to update the status to done. This is everything we have inside of our Prisma schema. Head over to our Prisma schema. We got to do, in progress, and done. And all of this is in our task, which is status there. Okay. All right. And now we need, so after this break, we're going to do default. And now this is basically if the destination ID is not recognized, we'll just keep it the original status. So we're going to do updated status. It's going to equal dragged task dot status. Okay. All right, perfect. I'm really not sure why this is cannot find a name. Oh, I didn't even hover over it. Oh my god, that's such a rookie move, man. There we go. All right, and now this is can be possibly null or undefined. All right, so now we're gonna do a try catch, and we haven't created this post request yet, but we're gonna create it here in a second. So we're gonna do a try. And do axios.post. It's going to be our API / updated or update task status. All right. And we're going to give it a task ID, which is our draggable ID. And then also our new status, which is our updated status. Okay. And we can console.log if we want, and actually this is supposed to go, that parentheses is supposed to go close right there. And then we need our catch. Let's do a catch. We can just catch an error. And we can just console.log the error. All right, perfect. So after that try catch, we're actually going to do a const updated task, and that's going to equal task, and that can be undefined. So we can do map and take in a task. Then we're going to return an if check. So we're going to check if our task.id is triple equal to our draggable ID. We want to return. We're going to use the spread operator, all of our tasks, comma, and then our status, which is our updated status. All right. So we just need to return our task now. So right after here, we're going to do return our task. All right, perfect. And last but not least, we need to set our state with the updated task. So after all of this, we got to do set task to updated task. Sorry. There we go. Perfect. So that right there is our onDragIn function. So let me scroll down here. And we need to add it to this drag and drop context. So onDragIn is onDragIn. All right, perfect. So like I said, our columns is going to take in a bunch of props here. So our column is going to take in a title. The first one is going to be to do, and then we're going to send it over our task. So we're going to filter out each one by the status. So we're going to do task for this one. It's going to equal brackets task dot filter. It's going to take in a task, and it's going to return task.status triple equals to do. And now we also need to do our droppable ID. All right, perfect. So that right there is our props we're going to be sending to each one. So we can actually copy this and paste it in that one, and then we can paste it in this one as well, and just switch it up. So the next one is going to be in progress, and this one is going to be completed. And we also got to change in our filter. So this is checking to see if our status is equal to in underscore progress. And this one here is checking if it's done. All right, and we also got to change the droppable ID. This one is in progress, and this one is completed. All right, perfect. All right, so we're gonna come back here. We got to add our modal in. So over top of this, we're actually gonna have a comment that says, create modal goes here. Let me comment that out. All right, perfect. So now we can actually start working on our column, and then we're gonna work on this API route here that we got inside of our onDragon function. All right, so let's head over to our column component, and we're gonna import some stuff from our drag and drop library, and we're gonna import a React icon. It's called lu dot. It's coming from React icons /lu, and we're gonna import useState. And we're also going to import some server actions. I believe we supposed to import server actions up here as well. I still don't know why this thing is there. We're gonna see why that is there in a little bit. But yeah, we got server actions we gotta import. So let's put a comment here. Server actions for modal. All right. And let's head back to our column, and we can actually just import our server actions on this one. So we're going to import delete task, or actually let's just add the comment, import server actions for modal, just so we can remember. And then let's go to import task from our types folder. All right. So if you remember, we're sending over a bunch of props here that we got to receive inside of our column. Let's go ahead and receive these props. So we got a title, we got task, we also got a droppable ID. And it's going to set this type for this component. I'm going to do react.fc, and it's going to be we didn't even add this yet, but it's going to be column props. Column props. All right, and let's actually make this column props right quick. I'm just going to copy this over. Save a little bit of time. So we're going to do an interface column props. The title is going to be string. Task is going to be task array, and droppable ID is going to be string. All right, perfect. So now we're going to set some state. So the first one we're going to set is the hover state. So we're going to make some state to keep track of the hover task index. So we're going to do a const hover index, and then a set hover index. That's going to equal useState, and by default it's going to be null. All right, and then the next one we're going to do a task ID. I'll do a const task ID, and then a set task ID, and by default that is going to be null as well. And last but not least, we need our modal. So we're just going to do modal state here, because we didn't create that modal yet. And then down here, we're going to have our modal functions. All right. So we can skip all of that, and we can actually start writing some JSX. So inside of our div, inside of our return, we'll have a div. Gotta give my computer some time to catch up to these autocompletes. And this is gonna have a flex. We have another div. with the class name of flex and a gap of 1. And then in here we're gonna have an h2 with the class name of dark, text white, text small, a font semi-bold, margin bottom 4, and uppercase. And then this h2 is going to be our title. Let's take a look, and we should see our title show. So perfect. We got to do, in progress, and completed. Perfect. All right. So now after this, we're gonna have after this h2, we're gonna have a loo dot, and there's just a little dot. Gives it a little bit of extra styling, I think. Take a look. Once it saves. Oh, I don't think. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, just a little dot there. That probably should go inside the h2 because when it's dark mode, I think it's going to stay. I mean, when it's light mode, it's going to stay white. So let's put this inside of the h2 and see. Oh, it's going to be weird. Yeah. So what we can do is this. Get rid of that. And instead of having the h2, this class name on the h2, this dark text white, let's add it to the parent div. That way, when it's dark, they both turn white. I mean, when it's light, they both turn black. All right. So now after this div, we have a droppable component. Droppable. And this takes, if you hover over it, it tells you what is missing. So type object is missing the following properties, droppable props. So it needs the droppable ID, which is going to be our droppable ID. All right. And also it needs in here. So all this is inside of the docs. So provided, it's going to return a div. Make some space here. And inside of this div, we're gonna spread out the provided. So provided dot droppable props. All right. And then also need a ref. I'm gonna do ref. And I don't think I did I? Okay, so it's built in. Okay. I'm gonna do ref is going to be provided dot inner ref. So all this is our drag and drop library, and is inside of the docs. All right, and this div is also going to have a class name of dark bg gray 800. Whoa. BG gray 800, and by default we want the BG to be gray 200 on light screens. And I'm going to round it LG and a padding of 4. So we can actually take a look. We should see, you can see it's right there. Let's actually change this to flex 1 like that. All right, perfect. And I don't know why I don't have that on my project. That's the magic right there, flex 1. So I must have did something else on mine, but we could just keep flex 1 for now. All right, and so inside of this, we're gonna actually map through our task. So I'm gonna do task dot map. Taking a task and also an index, and we're going to return a draggable, because remember, draggables is what we want to drag. All right. And same thing, if you hover, it shows you what is missing. So it's missing draggable props, draggable ID, and children. All right, so let's give this draggable a key of task.id. and also the draggable ID, which is draggable ID. Oh, sorry, draggable ID is task ID. ID. And also we're going to give this a index of index. Okay. All right. So in here, this is where we're going to have our provided again. We're going to do brackets, parentheses, provided. And we're going to render out another div. And it's going to have a class name of BG Gray 700. Around it, padding of 2, margin bottom of 2, text white, flex, justify between. Okay, on here. And we're going to do provided dot inner ref. And also we're going to do spread it out the provided dot draggable props. And also the provided dot drag handle props. Drag handle props. So let me just take a pause here and let's head back over to our, we're getting an error. Let's just leave it there for now, but let's head back over to this hello Pangea DND. And like I said, everything I'm doing now is inside of the docs. If you scroll down, so right now we're doing the draggable. If you scroll down and then click on draggable there, as you can see, we're doing the exact same thing. Yeah, this is basically all it is. This is what the docs is telling us to do. So yeah. All right. And in here, so inside of this div, actually, we still got some more stuff to do on this div. So on mouse enter. So we're going to do on mouse enter. And what this is going to return is we're just going to set our hover index to the index. And then we're going to do an on mouse leave. And here we're just going to return, we're going to set, oh snap. We're going to set hover index to null. So back to the default. Okay. All right, perfect. And inside of this div, we're going to have our task.name. And let's see, we probably can take a look. But we're getting an error for some reason saying that task reading map is undefined. All right, so there's a few things we're going to fix to get this to work. So head over to types, your types folder, and let's just change this to board props like that. I mean, well, board types, sorry. Board types. This is the first error we can just go ahead and get rid of. And board types. And let's change this to board types. Okay. All right. And also down here, I already changed these to task. I was saying task is undefined, I believe, because when a exclamation point there. All right. So the whole reason why we're getting this is because we're setting we have this loading, and the way that I got it to work is to do an if check, if it's loading or not. And then we're gonna have like a little loading animation from React Spinners. So to get this to work, right underneath our onDragIn function, let's do an if check. So we're gonna do if loading, and we're going to return a div And inside this div is going to be our sync loader from React Spinners. So with that, it gives the time to. So as you can see, you see it there. We do get some hydration errors. We're gonna fix that as well. But now we see our task, and we can actually drag, but can't drag to the next column yet. We gotta finish our column component. But we can actually style this up a bit. Let's do a class name on this div. I'm gonna do a height of screen, width of full, flex, justify center, and item center. All right, and let's give this a refresh. And as you can see, it's right there. And we can also do a color for this. Let's do a color of FFF. Oh, sorry, I forgot the pound. All right, give it a refresh. All right, perfect. So that is our loading, and we see our task there now. So just to go over a few things that I changed, I want to make sure that I got it all on camera because it took me a little bit to debug this. I changed the board types to, the types to board types, and just changed the type for our component to board types just to get rid of that error that we was having. And down here, I added an S to these because that's what we're receiving in our column. I think I had it as without the S by mistake. And instead of a question mark there, I added an exclamation point for each one. All right, perfect. And let's head back over to our column. All right, so in here, we're going to, let's set some types for our state here. So for our hover index, it can be a number or null. Let's go and add that now. So it could be a number, or it can be null. All right. And for our task ID, it can be a string or it can be null. Let's do string or null. Okay. And we're going to add some modal state there, some modal functions as well. But for now, let's go ahead and finish up our stuff here. So where were we? We got our task name. We did our on mouse leave. And so we did our on mouse leave, and that's just setting the hover index to null. And then we got our task name. So right underneath our task name, this is where we're going to render some more stuff out conditionally. So we're going to do a hover index triple equals to index and then we're going to render out a div with a class name of flex and a gap of 5. And in here we're going to have another div with a class name of text small, or text XS, sorry, and then a text gray 400, a margin top of 1, and a cursor pointer. So these is going to be our edit and delete buttons here. And we're going to have an on click in here, but we're not going to add it to this div yet. However, we're just going to add inside this div, we're just going to have edit like that. Let's see if we can see it. You can see once we hover, you can see we got that edit button there. All right, and we can actually copy this div here, or maybe this div right there, and paste that and change this to delete. Okay. Then we got our edit and we got our delete button. So we don't have our on clicks on it yet. Okay. All right. And so right underneath the draggable, we're going to add provided. This is in the docs, provided dot placeholder. All right. But we can actually see if this is working. As you can see, it just went there, but it didn't switch because we got a 404. And you want to know why? Because we didn't make our API route. So let's go ahead and do that now. So inside of, let's go ahead and close out everything. And inside of app, we're going to create a folder called API. And in here, we're going to have another folder called update task status, right? And inside this folder, we're going to have a file called route.ts. And we're going to import Prisma from our utils. And we're also going to import next request and next response. Then we're going to do an export async function. And it's going to be a post request. And we're taking in a request, which is a next request. And we're going to do a const body. That's going to equal await request.json. And now we can destructure everything from our body. We're going to do a const task ID and also a new status. This is what we're getting from our on drag in function, and that's coming from our body. All right, and now we just need to do a const updated task. That's going to equal await prisma dot task dot update, and we got to tell it where we're updating it. It's going to be from our task ID. So we're going to do ID task ID, and now we need our data, which is going to be our status and our new status. Okay, so with that, we should try this and hopefully this works. So we switch it over to in progress. So we're still getting an error. We're getting a 500. Okay. Oh, we forgot to return the next response. So we got to return next response .json, and it's going to be our updated task. Okay. Now let's try it. Drag. Okay, we're still getting an error there. Let's just refresh. All right, so in the terminal, it looks like I was supposed to make this in uppercase. That was my bad. And let's see if this works now. Drag that over and perfect. And inside of our MongoDB database, let's check and see if this task switched to in progress. It did. And let's switch it to completed to make sure that works. And give this little refresh and it's done. Perfect. So we got that working the way we want to. And let's go ahead and close out the terminal. I say we go ahead and add light and dark mode, and then we're gonna work on our modals. Okay, so before we start our theme switcher here, we actually got to install a package. So head over to your terminal and type in npm I next-themes, and we're going to create a folder. Let me go ahead and close out all of this. We're going to create a folder on our in our root. Is going to be called providers. Make sure we're inside of our root providers, and in here we're going to create a file called theme provider.tsx. And we can export it. All right, and this is going to be a client component. So we're going to use client, and we're going to import theme provider from next themes. Import declaration conflicts with local. Oh, it's because we. Okay, let's change this to theme. And then we can actually do an export export function here. So let's do an export function, and this is going to take in children like that, and it's going to set the type. So our children is a React node. New children React node. Okay. And then we can get rid of all of that, and we're going to return our theme provider. and between this is going to be our children. Okay, and our theme provider takes some props. So we got attribute, which is class. We got default theme, which is system. And we also got enable system. Okay. All right, cool. So that is our theme provider. Let's head over to our layout and we're going to import that here and wrap our entire application up with this. So it's going to import theme from our theme provider. And right over our toaster here, we're going to do theme like that. And wrap all of this up with that. So now let's head over to, let's actually create this theme provider. So inside of our components, let's actually create this theme switcher. So inside of our components, we're going to create a file. It's be called theme switcher.tsx. We're going to export this. And let's actually head over to our navbar. Well, we got this little theme switch there. And instead of this here, let's actually add our theme switcher. All right, perfect. All right, theme switcher. All right, so we're going to import some stuff from React icons and also use state and use effect. So if we're using use effect, we got to make sure we make this a client component. And we're going to import fi sun and fi moon from React icons. And then, like I said before, use state and use effect from React, and use theme from Next Themes, the package we just installed. So let's go ahead and set some state. We're going to do is const mounted, and then a set mounted. And by default, the state will be false. And then we're going to destructure some stuff out of use theme. We're going to do const set theme and also resolve theme, and that is coming from our use theme. Okay. All right, so we're going to do a use effect. We're going to do use effect, and all we're going to do is just set mounted to true. All right, and we want this to only run when the component mounts. All right, now we're gonna do an if check. So if it's not mounted, we're just going to return, and we can actually get rid of this. We're just gonna change this to an export default. So after this, we check if mounted. We're gonna do an if our resolve theme triple equals to dark. We are going to return our fi sun React icon, but we also going to have an on click with this React icon, and all it's going to do is just set our theme to light. Okay, and we can actually copy this and paste it again and just change it again, change this to light, and then change this to fi moon, and on click is going to set it to dark. Inside of our tailwind config, we have to do a dark mode class right over top of the theme here. And with that, you can check it out now. But as you can see, our text is all weird. That's because we added that text white on the body. That shouldn't be there. We just added this just so we can see our changes. But once we take that off, now we can see light and dark mode. Perfect. All right, so we got light and dark mode added now. If we head over to home, you're gonna see some stuff. As you can see, you see our text turn dark, and that's because of our background. So we don't want the light mode and dark mode toggle on this page. We only want light mode and dark mode toggle on our home page. Our sign in and sign up pages. and our Kanban page. And because we got this custom image background, it won't look right when it's like this, when it's light and dark mode. You can't really even tell once it switches, just changes the text. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to render out some of the styling conditionally inside of our navbar. And also we're going to render our theme switcher conditionally depending on which route we're on. And you're probably wondering how we're going to do that. So we're going to make a custom hook. It's going to be called use route check. So inside of the folder, inside of your root, we're going to create a folder called hooks. And in here, we're going to create a file. It's going to be called use route check. All right, so I'm actually going to paste in this code here. So this will be in the GitHub gist. You can go and just maybe pause the screen and just copy it right quick. It's not that much code, 17 lines. All right, so let's go ahead and close out of that. And now we just see this in action. So let's head over to our navbar. Let's go ahead and import our use route check. And underneath here where we just structure out our is signed in, we can do a cons onboarding route. And that's going to be use route check. And we're sending over onboarding. So if it's our onboarding page, it's going to get saved to onboarding route. All right. And we can actually just copy this. And we're going to paste it 2 more times. All right. We got our onboarding route, and then we're going to do sign in pages. And here we're going to do sign in, sign dash in, comma, sign dash up. Okay. Okay, next one is going to be our Kanban route. Let's do Kanban route, and this is just going to be my Kanban. All right, so now we can render some of this stuff out conditionally. So first things first, let's do our parent div here. So let's actually get rid of these quotes here, and let's highlight it. And then we're going to do brackets and then backticks. Now it's time to render some of this stuff out conditionally. So make some space there. I'm going to do a $. So if it's not Kanban route, or if it's onboarding route, we want the text to be white. All right. And then else, we're just going to return null. All right, so that is our first one. Let's change it. So right now it's dark mode. As you can see, our text stays white. I don't know why that's highlighted there. So as you can see, our text stays white now. Perfect. All right. And now we're going to do another one for our sign in and sign up pages. So we're going to do one, we're going to do a $, brackets. So we're going to do if it's sign in pages. We're going to do and we want the text to be gray, 900, and then dark. We want the text to be white. All right. Perfect. All right, so scrolling down, we got that. We got our user button, and I do want to add, we got our theme switcher here. So like I said, I don't want this theme switcher to be on a home page. I just want it to be on the Kanban route or the sign in and sign up pages. So right after let's actually get rid of this theme switcher for now. So right after our user button, we're gonna do brackets, and we do if it's not Kanban route, and if it is signed in, and if it's not onboarding route, and that's when we're going to return this link. Oh yeah, also we don't want to show this, we want to show, instead of showing this this theme switcher there, we're going to have a link that shows to have the user go to their board if they're signed in. So that's what this link is going to do here. So it's going to say go to my board. We have an HTML entity. And this link is going to have an href. Oh, what was that? The href of my Kanban. All right, make sure we add the slash there. Now let's take a look. So now since we're signed in, it should be go to my board. Nice. I kind of do want to add like a little hover effect over this as well. Let's copy this class name here. And let's paste it inside of this link here. Yeah, there we go. So once we click that, that should take us to our Kanban board. And now we need to render out our theme switch on our Kanban page. I hope I'm saying that word right. It's like, feels like I'm saying it wrong. So we're going to do Kanban route or our sign in pages. So this is the only two pages I want it to be on. That's when we're going to render our theme switcher, and else we can just return null. All right, let's take a look. Once we go to my board and we have access, and everything still looks good here, even though it's light mode. All right, perfect. And so once we click on this, let's check this. See, it says already a member, and then it got that there. So I don't want this to show on our sign up pages either. So let's see. So if it is, so if we're not signed in, and let's do it and if we are not on sign in pages. All right, so they got rid of that, and it shouldn't be on our onboarding page. So let's sign in with Google. Let's head over to my Kanban, MongoDB, and I'm gonna delete this board here. That way we should be signed in, right? Yeah, we are signed in. And go to my board. It should push me to onboarding because I deleted the board. All right, so push me to onboarding, which is good. And I'm just going to name this anything. And we don't got our theme switcher here, which is good. Everything looks good there. First task, getting board ready. Welcome to your new board. Okay, so the time has come. It's time to add some more CRUD operations for our Kanban board. So we already know how to create a task, but we don't have a button to actually create one now. And we do have our edit and delete buttons, but they don't really work right now. So we're actually going to create a modal, a reusable modal, and we're going to have it run for our edit, our create, and also our delete. So inside of, I was going to close out all of this. Inside of our UI components folder, I'm going to create a file called modal.tsx. Just going to export this. And before we actually style this up, I say we head over to our column and our board and start, and so we can send over the props and stuff. So let's do our board first, because our board is going to hold our create button, and then our columns is going to hold our edit and delete button. Edit and delete modals. So here is our state for our modal. We're going to do a const is create, and the set is create, and that's going to be false by default. Okay, and down here is going to be our modal controls. So we're going to do a const open modal, and this is just going to set is create to true. All right, and we're going to do a close modal here. Close modal, and this is going to set is create to false. All right, so down here we're going to render our button somewhere. So I say we do it right after our because it's going to be position absolute, so we can actually have it in anywhere as long as it's inside. Or I got a space for it already, so right here. See, that's the good thing about comments. I forgot I even had that there. So we're gonna have a button here, and it's not going to be our button component because it's going to be a little bit different. This is going to have a class name of bggray 700, a rounded, a full, a hover, a bggray 600, a text of white, font bold, pattern of 4, a position absolute, a right of 10, and a bottom of 10. Okay. And inside of this button, it's going to be our FA plus React icon that I don't think we installed, but now we will. FA plus from React icons. All right. And now we need to render our modal. So right underneath this button, we're going to do if is create. So if our modal is set to true, or is create set to true, this is when we're going to render our modal. Modal. All right. Let's see. Once we click, probably don't even see anything. Because do we even export it? Yeah, we exported it. Yeah, you're not going to see anything. But, oh, well, this button doesn't even have an on click anyway. So let's go and add the on click. And that is open modal. All right. Now let's see. And as you can see, we got modal there. All right. Perfect. So this is going to take in some props, this modal component. Let me make this a little better. So we're going to send this modal component a closed modal. Close modal. And then we're also going to send it a title, which is going to be create new task. And then we're going to send it is create equals is create. Then we're going to send it our action, which is our create task. So we already did this one. We're going to create the other two here in a few. So create task. So that's our action. And then our value, which is our board ID. Board.id. And we could change that to an exclamation point, or we probably could keep it like that. All right, so close modal. All right, perfect. So now let's head over to our modal component because we're going to get this one working first, and then we'll work on the other two. So head over to our modal component, and let's start styling this up. So few imports we're going to import our input component. And we're also going to import our button component. And then we're going to import our board types from our board types, our types component, and also import toast from React Hot Toast. So these are our props. So we also need is create as well. All right, and let's go ahead and set some types for our props. So our is create is going to be a Boolean. Gotta make sure we add a question mark there because it could be undefined. Is create is going to be a Boolean. Our value is going to be a string. Our action is going to be form data, and that's going to return a promise void. All right, that's our action. And then our title is a string. And our close modal is just a function that returns void. All right, perfect. So we're gonna have some more props. We're gonna have is edit and is delete as well. But we're gonna add those once we work on those modals. So now it's time to style this div up. Let me style this modal up. So we're gonna have a div with a class name of fixed, top of 0, left of 0, item center, justify center, a width of full, height of full, a BG gray 800, and a BG opacity 50. So on this div, we're actually gonna have our close modal. We have an on click. And this is just like the little overlay once the modal opens. A little overlay in the background. So that way you can click off the modal and it closes. All right, so inside of this div, we're gonna have another div with a class name of BG gray 700, a rounded LG, a padding of 6, and a text of white. All right. And now, actually, I'm not gonna add that yet. So inside of this div, we're gonna have H2, and inside of this H2, we're gonna have our title. All right, let's just take a quick look at this. You can see it's right up there. Actually, let's give this H2 some styling. We're gonna do a class name of text, Excel, a font of bold, and a margin bottom of 4. All right. So underneath this H2, a div with a class name of flex, justify center, and inside of this div, this is where we're going to have our form, and the action is just going to be action. So in this case, it's going to be our create task action, and then our on submit. We didn't create our on submit function yet, but we'll do that here in a second. So I'm actually going to copy this over here. Inside of this form, we're going to have a hidden input, and that's going to be our task ID, and that's going to take in our value. And now we need to render out some inputs if it's is create. So we're going to do is create, and in, we can return a fragment. We'll return this input, type text, name task, placeholder, enter task name, and full width. I don't know why it's up there. We're gonna fix that. We gotta see. We probably forgot something here. Fix. Top 0, left 0, flex. Oh, we forgot flex. That's what it was. Flex. There we go. So it should be right in the middle now. All right. So if it is create, we render our input component, type text, name task, placeholder, enter task name, and full width. So if you remember, whenever we're creating a task with our server actions, we have to also send over, let's go ahead and check. We also have to send over the board ID. So we're getting this name from our task input that we just created, but now we need our board ID. So that's going to actually be inside of a hidden input, just like we did on our onboarding form. So head back over to our modal component, and right underneath here, we're gonna have another input, and the type for this one is going to be hidden, but it's going to hold value, which is value. It's going to hold our board ID because we're sending that over via props. All right, perfect. So we got our action, and right underneath here, still inside of our form, we're gonna have another div. So we need our buttons now. We have a class name, margin top 5, flex, and a gap of 5. In here, we're gonna render our button component. This is going to be a confirm button. So that's a Boolean because we want it to be red. Text is going to be confirm. And the type is going to be submit. All right, let's take a look at that. So we should see a red button there. I'm not sure why. Oh, there we go. Just wonder why the margin top wasn't working. We're gonna have another button. It's gonna be our cancel button. This is going to have a text of cancel and an on click of close modal. All right, so if we cancel, test this out. If we click off the modal, but if we click on the modal, it also closes. So there's a little trick you have to do. So on the div right underneath this close modal, so on this div here, we're going to add an on click. I'm going to take an event and we're going to return e.stop propagation. Once you do that, once you open the modal, you click anywhere on the modal and it won't close this. But once you click outside of it, it closes. Let's actually try to add the task and hopefully this works. Perfect. For some reason, it's not closing once we submit. And I think because we don't have our on submit. So let's actually create that on submit right quick. Right over top of our return, let's do a cons submit handler. Return. So if our is create, we want to do a toast dot success task created. All right. And after this, we're going to close modal like that. All right. So let's actually add this submit handler on our form. We're going to do on submit. What is it called? Submit handler. All right. Let's test this out. Cancel that. And we're going to do code. Click on confirm. We should get a nice toast. Perfect. All right. So that right there is our our create task modal. All right. So now we need to go back to our board actions and we got to create an edit action and a delete action. So we're going to do an export async function. It's going to be called edit task. I'm going to take in our form data, just form data. And same thing, we're getting our data from our inputs. So the first one is going to be new task, and that's going to have a name of new task, and our task ID, that input is going to have a name of task ID. All right. And I'm actually going to copy this as well. So we're going to check and see if the input is empty. If it is, then it will just return. It won't get sent to our database as an empty string. And then we're going to do an await.prisma update. And we're telling it where. So we're telling it to look for the task ID. And then the data is the name, the new task that we're going to send over to this. All right. And then we can also do a revalidate path. Okay. All right. So that is our edit one. So our delete one is pretty short. So this is our delete task. Same thing, form data, we take it in form data. And we're getting our task ID from our input name of task ID. And we're just doing a Prisma delete of that task. All right, so now let's go ahead and close out our server actions. And we're getting an error here. We just got to change this to an exclamation point. So it can be null. And I believe we are done with our board. So we can close out of that, but we got to head over to our column because this is where our buttons are located. So inside of our column, we're going to set some state first here. We're going to set is edit and is delete. So let's go ahead and do const. Oh, not up there. Whoa. First, let's go ahead and import our modal since we're here, I guess. And also we're going to import delete task, and also edit task. All right, from our actions. And now down here is where we're going to set our state. So we're going to do a const is edit. I'm going to set is edit. By default, that is going to be false. All right. And we can copy this because the next one is going to be is delete. And set is delete. All right, and now we need to set our functions to open and close the modal. So this one's going to be a little bit different. So for our create modal, we just set is create to true, is create to false. But this one we're actually going to set is delete to true, but we also got to set our task ID to our current task ID, so that we're going to send over to this function. So let's do a const open delete modal. Oh my god, dude. All right. And this is going to take in a task ID, which is a string, and it's going to return set is delete to true, and also set task ID to task ID. All right, so that's our open delete. And now we need our, we can actually copy this. So now we need our close delete modal. Close delete modal. And this isn't taking anything inside. However, it's going to set is delete to false. And then set our task ID back to null. All right. So same exact thing for our edit and close edit modal. So we can actually just copy this, and it's going to be open edit modal, but it's going to set is edit to true. And then for our close edit modal, it's not going to take anything, but it's going to set is edit to false, and also set our task ID to null. All right, perfect. So now hit it down. Now we need to render out this stuff here. So we got to have an on click on our edit and delete buttons. So this div here, have an on click, going to return our open edit modal and send it over our task.id. All right. And same, let's copy this on click. So it's gonna be the same thing for this here. And now that I'm thinking about it, we probably should change these to spans, right? Span, not divs. Let's change that to a span if it changes up anything. All right, so edit. All right, so perfect. All right, so now we need to render our modals. We can do that at the bottom here. So right underneath this droppable, this is where we're going to edit out our modals. So first one's going to be is edit. And let me just copy this over here. Paste that in there. So we're rendering out our modal, and we send it is edit over. So we didn't receive this prop yet, so that's why we're getting this error. All right, and we're going to do the same thing for delete. We're going to render out a modal. We're sending over close delete modal. The title is going to be, are you sure you want to delete this task? The value is going to be task ID. Actions delete task, and is delete, it's is delete. And I don't think I went over this one. So the title is edit task. Action is edit task. And same thing, we're sending over the task ID and close edit modal. All right, perfect. So let's head back over to the modal component, because now we have access to is edit and also is delete. All right. Go ahead and put that right under these two. So is delete can be undefined. We're going to do a Boolean. And also is edit could be undefined, and that's going to be a Boolean. All right. So let's go ahead and do our toast since we're up here. So if it is create, we're doing a toast success, new task created. Then we're going to do an else if is edit. We're going to do a toast dot success task has been updated. All right. And then we're going to do another else if is delete. And the toast dot success has been deleted. All right. So that is our submit handler. So now let's go ahead and render out our inputs is edit and in. And we're going to render our input component. Type is going to be text. Name is going to be new task because that's what we named it inside of our server action. Placeholder is going to be enter new task name. And this is also going to be full width. All right, so a few changes that we have to make. So one mistake that I made, inside of the column, I had open edit modal for the delete button. So just make sure you change that to open delete modal, and that's going to open the delete modal. I just restarted the server. I cleared out my cookies and I deleted the Kanban board because I want to test everything out as a new user to make sure we got this site working good. So I'm going to head over to Clerk actually and head over to users, and I'm going to delete the user. All right. So now fresh user, everything is good. I'm actually going to click on, because I'm not a member, I'm going to click on start planning now. Okay, so we got light and dark mode. Oh, see, we got one issue. I see. It's perfect. We test this out. You see it's not showing, and now I can't even find it. So let's head over to our navbar and see if we can fix this right quick. So on our sign-in pages, the text is gray 900. I don't know why. Sometimes you just gotta. Text is gray 900 and dark text white. Let's change this to. Yeah, this should work. On our sign-in pages. Oh, there we go. All right, it's working now. All right, so we got that light, dark. Okay, perfect. And then we got our sign-in form. It's working good. So continue with Google. Please, no hydration warning. Perfect. And we get our user menu. All right. And now let's do a board. I'm going to type in dev Antonio. Click on continue. And my first task is going to be subscribe to me. And I spelled that wrong. All right. Click on continue. Everything gets disabled. Our board is getting ready. And it says welcome to our new board. And we got our first task already there. Perfect. All right. And let's go ahead and click on create a new task. And I want to click on, I want to code. Click on confirm. Our new task is created. Edit. I want to change this to create video. Click on confirm. Task has been updated. And now I want to delete this. Task has been deleted. And inside of our database, we should see these tasks. Where's the one subscribe to me? Once we switch this to in progress, that should change to in progress. Perfect. And delete, completed. It should change to completed. I think we have all the functionality completed, guys. So that status is done and perfect. Yeah, so let's check and see. Once we sign out, it should send us back to our home page. Nice. And since we're already a member, it should take us back to just our board. My Kanban. Loading. Nice. Perfect. So that is really it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If I missed anything or if I did something wrong, just let me know in the comments. I get a ton of Discord messages on how I can improve some certain things that I do improve my next video. I'm still learning just like all of you guys. I just started coding last year, so these projects is really helping all of us learn together. So yeah, just let me know what you guys want me to build next, and also let me know if I missed anything or if I can make this better. So yeah, just hit me up on Discord or the comments. So I will see you guys next video. Peace.